Well, this is embarrassing. Apparently, the end of the world didn't happen. So, welcome back to Liquid Kernedge. I'm Scott.
And I'm Jason.
Hey, buddy. So,
hey, we survived, buddy. We survived.
We survived. So it turns out we did get a note from our EP Tom last week or over the weekend saying, "Hey, you numbnuts talked about the end of the world being June the 21st, 2020, because the Mayan calendar misread. It is now post June 21st, 2020, and as you and I are recording here." I guess we should apologize that yet another prediction from the Mayans or someone who read the Mayan calendar did not come true.
Well, and I think there's a couple of key points here. First of all, we just can't assume that maybe we're recording in the afterlife with everyone who listens to us. Maybe we're just part of the afterlife recording.
You know, I posed that question to Tom. I was like, maybe this is the deal. Maybe we're already dead. We just don't know it. Maybe this is very
the
meta.
Afterlife is just a continuation of our current life. Who knows?
Yeah. And he said, if this is the afterlife and I'm still going to work, then this is hell. And
I think, yeah,
I don't disagree.
True.
I don't disagree.
Well, the second thing I was going to say, though, is, the Mayans, though, were really powerful until the Spaniards came with guns, and then all of a sudden they weren't so powerful anymore. So, we have to take that with a grain of salt. That the Mayans
I'm not going to tempt fate and comment on that. But okay. I will say, though, I don't know if anybody actually went back and fact-checked all of the events that they claimed that happened during the Mayan calendar versus actual real-time or the Gregorian, depending on how you wanted to keep your calendars.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay.
So it would take a Mayan historian, and I don't know of any out there that would have to go back and physically fact-check those things. And you know what? As far as I'm concerned, they're 0 for 2. But when we were talking about our show notes before, that you'd mentioned that someone made a prediction that it's actually July the 22nd, 2020 is what the calendar says.
Yeah, I was.
So we're not out of it yet.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast about a true crime podcast, and it just happened to. It was one on the Lori Vallow, and I guess that she in recent months thought that she was going, like, the end was coming, and that she was going to have to lead a chosen few through the apocalypse. And her date that she saw was July 22nd, 2020. So I thought, oh, how interesting that yours was July 20 or June 21st, 2020 from the Mayans. Hers is July 22nd, 2020. So 2020 is not turning out to be a great year by any stretch.
Yeah, I don't think we needed a misreading of the Mayan calendar to tell us that, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, what I don't like about her prediction is that at least when the Mayan calendar, the 2012 prediction, it was the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. And once they switched to the Gregorian, it was at least the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, just with 8 years in between. So, I could see maybe some room for fudging there, but July the 22nd, 2020, that's just bad penmanship as far as I'm concerned. That's just someone's not doing the math right. They forgot to carry it too.
Yeah, and I've always wondered how people pick these dates. Like, I think about, remember the group of people that they had the really weird looking old guy that was their leader.
Was it Heaven's Gate?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what it was called, but they're the ones that were in California and thought they
had bowl cuts and the same weird beige clothes and Nike.
Yes,
that's Heaven's Gate.
Heaven's Gate. They had to pick a date too, and their leader picked a certain date, whatever time it was ago, and they all had to pass on to the next generation or whatever at that date. So it seems like everyone comes up with the date of the end of the world.
The part I don't like is that people fall for that. Like, these guys are, you look at them on TV, and it's always the post news reports, because you never really hear about them until they're dead, essentially. And you see pictures of them, and you wonder, how the hell could these people convince anyone of anything, let alone following them to their death?
Well, I don't know. I mean, look at Y2K. Remember Y2K?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it was. I don't know if you were. Well, you would have been old. Like, you've been early.
I was in college.
You were in college. I was out of college. But there was this. For those of you who weren't maybe old enough or weren't even born yet to remember, Y2K. That was like a big fear across the world.
It freaked some people out. Yeah,
It did. I mean, people were getting rid of every single, selling all their earthly possessions so they could buy enough toilet paper to survive the Holocaust, and I mean, it was bad.
Yeah. I remember that New Year's Eve very vividly. We were at a friend's house here in Kingman, Arizona, and Tom was actually up here that New Year's as well. And he was with us, and we hypnotized him to be afraid of flames. And he claims it did not work, but we put a candle next to him that evening, and he was very just cautious of it, and actually tried to put it out with his fingers at one point in time.
Oh, wow. So I guess to me, I'm finding that it's very easy to convince someone of a lot of strange things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think the more you want to believe, or the more gullible you might be, it might be a better way to put it. You are susceptible to things like that way easier. But like I said, you go back to these cult leaders and the way these guys look and the way they talk. Maybe we missed the boat. Maybe we missed calling the show the Cult of Kernedge.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think that we have enough impact on people's lives to be able to persuade them to believe anything that we say.
I don't think we can say that yet, because until we actually persuade people in their lives, we can't say we don't have the power. We just haven't wielded it.
And I don't know if do you ever remember that if you believe something's going to happen, chances are you'll probably make it happen.
The ability to will it, manifest it, absolutely.
Yeah,
I do that. I do that in my life.
So when people say, "Oh, the end of," like if you were to go out and say, "Okay, June 29th is the end of the world," don't you think your actions would be counterintuitive to what normal continuance of life would be? Like if you knew that you were going to end of the world on June 29th, you might do a lot of things that you wouldn't normally do, but because you know it's the end of the world, you don't care. Like you might, I don't know, grab someone's butt that you normally wouldn't, or rob a bank, or do something. You know what I mean? Like, so these people that convince themselves of a date, it's like, oh, okay, well, I've already convinced myself the end of the world is that day, so
there's a difference between lunacy and willing something to happen in self-manifestation. If I cannot will the world to end on June 29th, 2020. Now, I could do something stupid to where my world ends on June 29th, 2020. But if I go out there acting like it because I've convinced myself, no, I'm going to act a fool, and I'm going to get caught like a fool. When I say manifesting or willing something to happen, it's something within my control. Something like the date of the end of the world, I don't think that's something within my control.
Okay, but you're a rational person. I'm talking about these people that are predicting a date.
Yeah, that's true.
Like this Lori Vallow, if she really predicted that July 22nd, 2020 was the end of the world, don't you think that putting like, okay, I'm putting that's the end of the world, so I'm going to get everything lined up so that is the end of the world, even though like Y2K it wasn't. People were preparing.
So what you're saying is this Lori Vallow woman made the end of her world is July 22nd, 2020. Come hell or high water, when we wake up on July 23rd and we get the news report that she's no longer with us, that is not our problem. That is her manifesting her destiny.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying is that these prophets who predict the future and predict that something is going to happen, whether it's religious prediction or not. I use prophet, but only as a generic term, not a religious term. You can make prophecies come true by switching end of the world is coming, and one of the things is going to be a dead bug on the sidewalk, and then you see a dead bug on the sidewalk. Oh, see, there you go. There's proof that the end of the world is coming.
Yeah, it's. And
I don't think you and I are capable on the podcast to be able to persuade our listeners to think to convince them that that's the case.
I don't know. I at one point in time, I probably would have told you otherwise, just to see if we could. But I'll be honest, man. The way this year's gone so far, I don't want to. I don't want to tempt fate. I don't want to risk it. I just want the second half of 2020 to be a lot nicer and smoother than the first half of 2020.
Yeah, it has been a rough first 6 months, and I'm sure that have you ever heard of Nostradamus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, the great prophet predictor of the 16th century.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that. Like he made all these predictions and a lot of them did come true, right? I mean, a lot of things did happen the way that they were supposed to happen.
Did they happen, or did people cram their explanation into a vague description that he left?
That I guess that was the point I was trying to make earlier, and I didn't do it as well. Is I think that if you're trying to predict the future, there's a lot of things that you can manipulate in your own mind. Yes. That will make you convinced of that. And I'm sure that if you're a persuasive speaker, Scott, I know for a fact, and I'm putting this down on recording, that you have the type of personality that if you really worked hard, you could get 50 followers, dude.
Yeah.
You could definitely get 50 followers who would say, oh my gosh, Scott is the only true knowledge, only true wisdom in the world.
That's true. I'm sure I could actually double that number pretty easily if I really wanted to apply myself in that direction. Yeah. The problem with applying yourself in that direction is when people start looking at you as a living deity almost. That's a lot of pressure, man. And I don't know if I want to hang around those people, because I want to hang around smart people, not people that are going to fall for that.
Well, I'm sure that many of the people out there who have done this, it definitely does take a select person who's going to be a follower. Someone is a specific personality that is going to follow. And there's a difference between following one guy, 50 people following one guy, and 1 billion people who claim to be Christian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a pretty big difference in terms of the power of persuasion. But
have you ever watched like an interview with someone that's gotten out of a cult, like post-mortem, like this is now that they've had a chance to decompress and realize everything that they fell for to go into it?
No.
If you haven't, YouTube has everything. It's interesting to watch because the people that are generally inducted into cults or join the cults are in low places in their life. They're spinning their wheels. They have no direction, and they need that one idea to grasp onto to work for them. And
there have been a lot of people, a lot of famous cult groups. And some of those have turned out pretty badly. I mean, let's be frank, or let's be, pure about what I'm saying here. But, I have to think that while you're in it, you probably don't question necessarily. You think, wow, this is a good person. This person's, doing the right things, and this is what I believe in, and that's what they believe in.
Well, it's like going to war. Nobody in a war believes they're on the wrong side or they're the bad guys. Everyone believes they're doing it for the greater good. So I think being in a cult is no different. You're joining something for what you consider the greater good.
Right.
And
if you produce the greater good, great. Fantastic.
But in whose eyes?
Yeah. Well, I guess what I mean is that, if you belong to a group that, does the Borders Without Boundaries or humanity borders, and you're part of that kind of group, there's some people that are fanatical about being in those kind of, I need to go to every poor country and try to help people.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give them that. I'm not one of those type of people, but
but I wouldn't I'd call those philanthropists more than cult members.
I don't know. Some of them get pretty cult-like. Maybe the definition of cult is the real question.
That might be it too. I mean, if someone has a hobby, you can consider sports fans cult members too, if they follow their certain teams religiously.
Yeah. Well, or just, I mean, they'll die for their sport team, or I got you.
Which is extreme. Yeah. I'm a huge Cardinal fan, but if someone says, would you kill yourself for the team? I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And what if it means a championship? Well, if it's a championship, I'm going to be dead. So what's it matter to me?
Yeah, so you're not going to be able to enjoy it. Right.
I can't enjoy that. That's dumb. So let me ask you this then. Would you, given the opportunity to start a cult, would you start a cult?
I'm going to be honest. I don't think I would start a cult because I'm like you. I don't want someone to follow me solely because I don't know. I don't think I would handle it very well because I'm like you. I want someone who's part of a group. Like I'd love to be like a founder of a movement.
Yeah.
Like a movement I think would be good because you can come and go when you want, and you feeding my ego is not a requirement. So I'd rather have you, just, hey, if you disagree with what I say, then tell me and disagree with what I'd rather have a movement than a cult.
That also you get your face on a retro T-shirt 30 years later, and really cool posters and pictures made of you at arts and craft fairs. So that's another significant difference between a movement versus a cult.
Well, and maybe that's the other part too. Is don't you think that we as a society have put a negative spin or bend on the word cult?
I think so. I think when you get down to movement versus cult, it's really semantics, and it's how you paint the picture of what you're trying to do.
Yeah,
I think the difference is with a movement is you're not predicting the end of the world with it per se, and that's a huge difference.
Well, and not to offend. So if I offend, I don't mean to. But when you think about the ALDS, no, not ALDS, but the people up in Colorado City.
Oh yeah, the FLDS.
FLDS. The majority of those people wanted to be left alone. Let us live our lives. Let us be our group. I don't know if that's a cult or not, but when you have people that are willingly able and wanting to believe in something, and for the most part, they do not hurt other people, it's kind of hard to say, let's break it up. Now, when you throw in other crimes that our society says, we label them a cult, right? Oh, you guys are a cult. You guys are a cult. Frankly, I don't even know what the definition means. I have a definition in my head of a cult, but I don't know what the true definition of cult is.
And maybe we should have looked that up on in our notes, but
we do sometimes go off on tangents. So please, we apologize in advance because sometimes we do. I don't think we were talking about cults in our pre-production notes.
yeah. I don't think we were going to get this far into cults, but now that we're talking about it, I think so. Cultism is a lot different than extremist, and I would call the FLDS up in Colorado City more extremist than cult-like, because fundamentally they still have the same beliefs as the Mormon Church. They just prefer to have multiple wives and do some other weird shit. But aside from that, they're basically like us. They're not trying to say the world's going to end, or they have to sign all their belongings over to a certain person. Well, now that Warren Jeffs is no longer there, it's not the case. So they no longer. Maybe it was a cult there for a minute. The more I talk myself through this.
Okay, so we're impromptu, but we're doing it. So I looked up cult, and it is a noun, a system of religious veneration and devotion directed toward a particular figure or object.
Wow.
So it is the definition, at least the way it is written, is specific to a religious sect that the majority in society look at as strange or sinister.
Well, yeah. So I don't think you don't ever see a happy cult. Like, oh, that's just the cult down the street. Hey, don't mind them. They're just making cookies for everybody. No, if they're making you cookies, they're trying to kidnap you.
Yeah,
that might be a little extreme, but you get my point. You get my point, though.
No, yeah, I think it's the key that I'm reading into there is that it's an asphyxiation. It's a religious asphyxiation or veneration toward a single person.
Yeah,
like I think that every major religion probably would say that they have one quote air quote person who is their leader, right? And maybe it's just it's just an overindulgence to that one person.
Are you referring to like Jesus, Muhammad?
No, I'm dealing we have a pope. Like the Catholics have the pope, right? And the pope is the leader of the Catholic Church. But people are not personal to him. They're personal to him as the representative of the religion, not to him personally. Like James Jones, right? Jim Jones. Like that guy, he was the person. So the cult would be people that explicitly go toward that one person.
Yeah, okay, I see that.
Yeah. Okay.
I see that. It's a person that represents a cultural view a cultural / religious view versus a person who just has created a view that strictly benefits him, but you don't see that because he makes it look all flowery and shit.
Yeah, and I think also the key in the other definition was that it's society views the relationship as strange or even sinister.
Yeah, I can deal with that.
So I can deal with that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's just I look back now and I wonder, like, what if we had started off with the Cult of Kernedge instead of Liquid Kernedge? Would we be in season 4? Would we never gotten past season 1?
Yeah, good question.
What if we picked up 1,000 followers because we had the word cult in it and people thought we were a how-to versus what we are?
Well, I got to admit, I mean, there are a lot. You know, I've always wondered how many people does it take to define yourself with a following, a legitimate following, because I would think that if I was a crazy nut job but I had 1,000 followers, that's pretty significant. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's pretty significant.
Yeah, it is.
So, you know.
I mean, hell, if I had 50 followers, like you said, that's pretty significant too. I think it's all comparatively speaking. What's the population based in the area? If I'm in a town of 2,000 and I have 50 members that follow me religiously, no pun intended, that's a significant portion of the population.
Yeah.
You know, and that says something. So if you make that population 2,000 or 2 million, we'll say, and your cult has, I don't know, 10,000, 20,000 people, that's huge. That's still a significant number in that. It might be like 1-2%, but 1 or 2% of that number still adds up. It's exponential, really.
Yeah. And I've always wondered too, it's like, I love a lot of people. I love a lot of people, but there's probably maybe 1 or 2 people, maybe 3 people, and a handful of people in this world that I would, do anything for, including things that probably you wouldn't do normally.
The no questions asked rule. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of these cult leaders get their followers to basically do whatever they tell them. Hey, go.
Dude, that's like having a henchman. That's kind of cool on some levels, but really fucking creepy on other levels,
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of one person that I've ever been able to say, you're my henchman, you do whatever I tell you, and that's it.
I make jokes about it, but yeah. I don't have one either, or at least one that I would say, hey, would you mind going and breaking this person's kneecaps and stealing their identity for me? I don't want to do that because that's not that's not a thing that should happen anyway. And 2, I feel like morally, the person you're asking that to do should say, you know what, I don't really feel comfortable doing that. And I don't think we should be doing this.
Have you ever talked to someone where you just get that sense like, this just sounds...
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've had it a few times, maybe 3 times in my life, where they always come across really nice. Like, oh, this group is so great. And, oh, we're such a nice group of people. You're going to love hanging out with us. And then you get like, I'm getting a weird vibe from you people. I'm sorry.
Well,
maybe that's the cynical side of me.
You've been around those people. I've been around those people. We had that cult here in town years ago, up in Keaton when we used to live here.
Yeah.
And they got in tight with a lot of people, and everyone's like, these people are fucking weird. And when we finally, I don't know, used Google and looked up names, and we saw all the back news stories from where they came from and all the legal issues that came from it. It was a holy shit moment. And the people that were falling for it, you could tell, had no direction, had no real sense or purpose in what they were doing, but they bought into these people hook, line, and sinker, and by God, they were going to do whatever they wanted them to do.
And you hope that these people, have good intentions. I mean, I really do.
Good intentions is a relative term in this case.
Well,
good intentions for who?
If I'm doing charitable work in the community, and I'm doing it because I'm motivated by a central leader of a group, does it matter that it's kind of strange to us as a society if they're doing good things?
Well, if it's a matter of goodwill versus they're goodwill for goodwill, or they're doing it for goodwill to earn more people that want to maybe give them money or align themselves with them because they're under the impression that these people aren't wackadoo, and that's a technical term.
Yeah. And we've been very fortunate. I don't think you and I have ever gone through a time in our lives where we didn't belong to some sort of community, whether it was friends or family or college or, I feel very fortunate. There's a lot of people that they are very much alone.
Yes.
In this world.
And
if you have a chance to be indoctrinated by a group of people that come across as, oh man, we just want to do good work and we have all kinds of love, and I could see the allure for some people. I really could.
That's called a service organization, though. I mean, that's the thing you meet once a week at a luncheon for.
There are some groups, and you know the ones I'm talking about, where they come across as, oh man, we want to do such good work. Come join our group. It's all about love and family and a sense of community. And then you find out that it's not. There's something underneath the surface.
Yeah, not all is well. No, I get that.
And I guess we never had that instance where we've needed to belong.
No.
You know what I mean? So maybe that's why my radar's come up the couple times I've run into groups where I thought, this just doesn't sound right to me.
Yeah, and I've done that too. It's like, this is awkward. I don't like this. And not even with cults, just with some social circles or events I've been to. It's like, I don't like the way this feels.
Right. There's something, I truly feel that internally in all of us, we have we have some sort of radar system where you just know something doesn't feel right. Well, you can't put your finger on it.
I read something the other week that there are 3 central processing units in your body: your brain, your heart, and your gut. Your brain processes facts. So all the central nervous, all your nerves, your wires, they go to your brain, they process that. Then there's your heart that processes your emotions and how you view the world. And then your gut is your intuition. And there's more nerves that supposedly go to your gut, because if you rely on your gut and your intuition, it'll tell you what you need to know, and it'll tell you the reality of the situation as you're seeing it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was like, oh, that makes sense. Because that's why
cool.
People say trust your gut, trust your heart, trust your head. I mean, those are the 3 basic brains for you if you think about it. Mm-hmm. Even if only one does the real thinking, whichever one that might be for you.
Yeah, unfortunately, my gut works great, but sometimes my brain and my emotions don't work too well.
Oh, yeah, trust me on that one. That's burned me a lot too.
Well, we got our pre-production notes totally got off on this one. But I thought it was interesting that we went down, the rabbit hole. Sometimes I'll play a game where you think of a notebook, and then you take notebook and see where it carries you in your thought process to see where you end up. That's what I feel like this episode did. We were talking about something totally non-event exciting, and went all the way through now to this. So.
Well, I guess that leaves me asking this. Would you start a cult? If you do, or you did, or you want to, what was your cult's name, and where is it located? Hit us up on Facebook, Twittergram, or Instagram, all at Liquid Kernedge. If you want Tom, our EP, to start a cult, which would be very interesting, just because I just want to see the people that would join, hit him up on Twitter and Instagram at liquid_EP.
Yeah, I think Cult of Kernedge is a good starting point for us. We might have to,
maybe that's our tell-all book, our salacious, scandalous book that we write after all these years when we're finally done, where you and I have the Laurel and Hardy fallout. We don't talk for 16 years, but we write books about each other, or we have a reunion tour with the book, and it's just called The Cult of Kernedge, where we just give everyone all of our dirty secrets.
Yeah. I think that The Cult of Kernedge would be a great book. Go write something, Scott.
You go write. You're the one who's an author. You want to go be an author? You go write something.
Okay, I'll write something. You can write the introduction.
Exactly. I'll do the forward, the dedication.
There we go. The forward. Yeah. There we go.
Well, with that being said, thank you everybody for indulging us on this today. We truly did have a real topic, but I guess we'll come back to that next week since we burned all of our time discussing cults. But sometimes you just got to burn one off like that.
That's right. And this heat is starting to make me crazy. So
it is. So with that being said, Jason, take us home.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We really appreciate it. That was Scott. I am Jason. And as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some Liquid Kernedge.
Or join the Cult of Kernedge.
The Cult of Kernedge.
The Cult of Kernedge. Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. All at Liquid Kernedge.